Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another Thursday night Scrap Your Scraps with Crafty Chris. Okay, so today I'm looking at using up some of my fabric washi. I've got a bunch of these fabric washi sets, and each set comes with a 2.5 inch, a 1 inch, and 2 1/2 inch washis. And I'm in a wintry mood because it's snowing here in Canada, in Ontario specifically, where I live. And I kind of like the color lines of this one because it was kind of wintry, bluey, purpley colors, even though it has flowers, but this is the mood I'm in. So inside here we have, I'm going to take them out of the container. We have our 2.5 inch roll, our 1 inch roll, and we have two 1 inch rolls. So I wanted to go about finding a way to use these, and I want to make a background with them. And so I thought, what better way to use them than to try to make some sort of um, a mimic either a stained glass or a quilted pattern. So I went online and I just looked at a whole bunch of quilted patterns, and I found this one that I really thought was quite nice. And I'm going to change it slightly, but I'm going to start my idea and bounce my idea off of this small square long strip sort of layout. So before I start cutting the washi, because the washi does have a price tag to it, I'm going to just lay it out and show you how I work through my thinking on a complicated project like this. All right, so I have my 12 by 12 sheet of white paper. I don't know if I'm going to use white or black. I really don't know, but I want to mimic this pattern. So I'm starting with 2.5 inch squares, which is my largest washi, and I want that to be in squares. And I'm not sure I can get 3 squares across and really make an impact on the paper, but I'm going to give it a try. So if I start at the bottom here, let me move everybody up. If I start at the bottom here with 1 square, and then I'm going to have a dark line, so I figure I'll use my dark purple as my dark line, and I'm estimating that it's going to be my 1/2 inch. I have to use the measurements I have here, not what I think I see there. So I'm going to put a line, a 1/2 inch line all the way up. It's going to go right up to the top of the page. Then I'm going to put another square and then another line halfway up, right to the top of the page. So I'm just estimating, and as I thought, this is really not going to give me the impact that I'm looking for, because it'll be very heavy weighted on the one side of the page, and then when I'll only be able to move up one step here. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is change this slightly. Now with each, I have 1 inch and a 1/2 inch left over to create these little strips in between. So 1 inch plus 2 1/2 inches, or 2 inches plus a 1/2 inch equals 2.5 inches, which is the width of my square. So I've cut some strips in that size, and I'm going to put and I've estimated that if these are 2.5 inches, then I can probably get 3 of those. Well, I'm banking on 3 of the same size going up. So this is a 7.5 inch strip. So I've got a 2.5 square and a 7.5 inch strip that's 1/2 inches wide, and then a 7.5 inch strip that is 1 inch wide, and I'm going to put that on either side, and that fills in that spot. And then at the top I can add another square to finish, and it's going to go off the page, which is fine. Now I'm going to shift this up one, and I'm going to do the same routine. I just want to see how it looks before I actually start cutting and putting these down on and using the expensive tape. So I've got that going there. I'm not going to worry about the bottom here. And then if I shift this up, then I'm going to have this going up here and not going there. So this kind of just gives me the idea of how it's going to lay out across the page. And if I put another square, a 1/2 inch up. So what I'm seeing is I'm coming short, and I'm not sure if I really like that. So I want to take this space that's left over, cut it in half, and put that half down here in this space to shift everything up. So let me kind of get an estimate of what that is. Again, we don't really know how the whole thing is going to look until we get the paper out. That to me looks like 2 inches, so I'm going to shift this up 1 inch. So if I shift it up about 1 inch, everything else shifts up. This is going to shift up. This is going to shift up. Well, it won't shift up because I got stuff on it. And then this is going to shift up. And I like better now how this balances in the page. Now, I have an extra 1/2 inch over here, which I think I'm going to, that's going to be a dark edge. So I think I'm going to leave that because that splitting this in half and folding it under, and it might cause me problems. So I think I will leave this the way it is. Now, in the end, when it's all completed, I'm going to be turning it around to see which direction I actually like it from. This is just the construction phase. So in that I like what I have so far. Now I'm good to start going on it. And I've just got my picture here, and I know what my measurements are. So let me share my measurements with you. So the corner pieces, or the square pieces, are 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So they are the width of this tape, 2.5 by 2.5. Okay. Then the strips are all 7.5 inches, just because that's the estimate that I made. And this, I have 7.5 by 1 inch, and I have 7.5 by 1/2 inch. Now, some of the 1/2 inch strips are actually going to be the full page because it is the border, the dark border, and the others are going to be cut to 7.5 inches for the color. So let's get started on that. Get all my mess out of the way. This is a lot of cutting of paper, but you know what? I feel more confident that I'm going to get something I like when I've done that. And now there's 2 ways that I can approach this. I can create on small squares these square pieces, and I don't know. I've never used cloth tape before, so I guess we'll see how it cuts. That I don't really know if it's going to cut well or not, but let's give it a try. So I'm going to put everything back in the box, and I'm going to use the blade that's in the box that's supposed to be for the tape to do the cutting. And hopefully everything will work out well. So here I'm going to measure 1 inch up so I know where my point is to start. And I am measuring. I usually don't do a lot of measuring because I tend to prefer to fly by the seat of my pants, but and eyeball things. But because we're doing this with specific measurements, I am I'll see whether this works out for me or not, or becomes a pain in the neck, in which case I'll just take it out and cut it with a pair of scissors. All right, so I need 2.5 inches. And how accurate is that going to be? That doesn't look very accurate to me, but let's err on the side of more than less, because I can always trim it. So 2.5 inches. I'm going to assume that that's going to cut right down the center. So I'm going to lift it up a bit. Yeah, this is all kinds of awkward, so we're not doing that. That's great if you're just ripping off a piece, but if you're measuring, you really want to have something that's more accurate. Okay, so 2.5 inches. So I think I will do a bunch of 2.5 inch cuts. So I'm going to just lay this down, and I'm going to go along and measure 2.5 inch cuts, because I do want them to be square. And as equal as possible. I'm assuming that that's square at the bottom. That might not be a smart thing to do, but I am going to try it. Okay, so I've got 2 cuts I can make here. And of course I can't see my lines anymore. So that goes there. And this comes here. Okay, so I can see my cut line here. I'm actually just going to stick it right on my scissor. Okay. It's not exactly straight, but we can play with that. Okay, so there's my cut line there. Okay, did it come off more or less? It's going to be fine. So now I'm going to stick this in the corner. Oh, one inch from the bottom along the edge. I have something that looks like writing, so I should probably have it in the right direction. I'm going to put that right along the edge. This is by no means, now that doesn't look straight, does it? I'm just going to double check that that's an inch there. Yes. Okay, so there's our first guy. And now I'm going to take 7.5 inches of this. I think I'll just go back to this. This just seems like it might be easier. Let's see what happens when we do 7.5 inches of this. Working with a very small space, 7.5 inches. Starts right there. Let's see if this will cut. Oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled. That will cut. So 7.5 inches there. I think we'll just do everything with the cutter here. You are on my journey. 7.5 inches. There we go. So we got 2 pieces, 7.5 inches long. One is going to go along the edge here. Oops, we have a 1/2 inch of purple we need to put in there too. So I forgot about the purple. We have to have the squares completely surrounded by, and I'm going to surround only the top edge because this is going to be long. Alright, so let's get our purple out. Before I go any further, I've got to do this little piece and this long piece. And having said that, I want that to come 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to mark the 2.5 inch part here and the 2.5 inch part up here. Turn it the other way. So that I can run that 12-inch piece long. Okay, I'm going to do the 12-inch piece first. So get it underneath here. The tape has a little bit of give. I'm just going to go a little longer than 12 inches. There we go. And I have to stand up so I can make sure that it's more or less straight. There we go. There's our 12-inch piece. A little longer than I need. And I'm going to line up this edge all the way up. Needs to go just a little bit over. Pulled a little too much. Okay. So this is more or less our first line. Okay. And now I need a small piece for that, which will be 2.5 inches. Stick this at the 2.5 spot. Run it along the top there. And there's our little piece. And that should fit in right there. There we go. Oh, I'm liking it already. And now we have our 1-inch piece, which is going to fit in right in the corner here. Going to move it down just a tad so it actually hits the bottom. There we go. And this is going to go right along this edge. There we go. And then I need my small 1/2 inch. I need a 7.5 inch piece, so we're going to cut that now. This is really no different than cutting paper. Could have done it with paper, but I'm going to use up my tape here. I got a lot of it. And it's kind of neat. It's a different kind of texture. So I'm going to put that there. make sure I don't get my hair in there. There we go. And this is the piece that's going up the center. Like so. There we go. So there's one piece. And now I can finish the top here. Doesn't want to stick so well. By putting, this piece has got to move over a tad. Luckily, it is flexible enough to move around. There we go. And then this fits right in there. Oh, no it doesn't. We need a purple piece right across the top there to finish that off. So we need 2.5 inch, because I got to put a purple piece down there too. I could probably get a smaller cutter. Here we go. Oh, that's only 2 inches. Pay attention to what I'm cutting. I need 2.5 inches. There's one. Something a little different. Something you maybe wouldn't want to do too often, because, or at least maybe the pattern I've picked is a bit complicated in terms of cuts. I don't know. But it's kind of cool. So, this guy's going to go right across the top edge here. Make sure it lies completely flat and goes right to the edge. There we go. Oops, I'm a bit over. You gotta get it right touching, because if you don't, you can see the white underneath. And it's not so pretty. There we go. And this piece down here will go right across the bottom. Guess on those pieces I could have probably cut a little more. There we go. Like that one I did. Alrighty. So there's our first line. Okay, so now I'm going to shift up. And this is our next square. And I need to put a 1/2 inch between the two. So, because that shifts up a 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to put this here. So this shifts up a 1/2 inch just to give me my starting point. Make sure my writing is in the right direction. Okay, so there's our next square. I can do a 1/2 inch. Well, let's do the 12-inch piece first, and then we'll do 2 1/2-inch pieces. There we go. There's our 12-inch piece. And 2 1/2-inch pieces. I need 2 2 1/2-inch pieces. Whoops. Half-inch. There's one. And here is all right. Now we're going to measure from here. So that was possible. 2 1/2 inches. It's right there. And from here, 2 1/2 inches. Oops, that's a little off. If I let it go, by the time we get to the other side, it will be considerably off. So we don't want to have any problems. There we go. Alrighty, now we'll get our 12-inch piece and line that up with the bottom and the top. Oops, I'm a little out at the bottom. Top is perfect. There we go. And I'm just going to adjust this slightly. There we go. Alrighty. And now we have a piece at the top that goes from side to side. That seems awfully short. There, it fits at the bottom edge. Just get it very close. There we go. And this one, okay, so this square to me doesn't feel like 2 1/2 inches. What's going on? It is 2 1/2 inches. These pieces are short, just a smidge. I must have stretched them. Okay. Okay. There we go. All right. It's just a little wide at the bottom here. There we are. Okay. Alrighty, so now we don't need 7.5 inches from here to here, so we're not going to waste that. We need 4.5 inches. Okay, so our 1 inch, we're going to cut 2 at 4.5 inches. It'll be a little bit bigger than we need, but that's okay. You can trim the excess off. 4.5 inches. Let me line it up. Need 2 of those. I can just tuck this under. See, as you work, you start to see things that you can do that make things easier. Okay, so there's our 2. And why don't I put this under as well while I'm here? There we go. Alrighty, so there's our 3 pieces. And 1, 2, 3. Now this has mostly purple and mostly green, so I'm going to keep that going. Oh my goodness, how did I measure that wrong? Four and a half inches. Way off. This kind of thing happens. But we're not going to throw those out. We are going to keep these pieces because they will definitely come in handy at the end. Four and a half inches. And 4.5 inches. Maybe if this was alive, some of you would have seen me doing that. And whoops, it slid. And said, Chris, it's not right. Okay, there we go. And one more. Half inches. Okay. It's lucky that this tape is forgiving because you can move it around a little bit. There's that. And here is that. Oop, that's the short piece. And here is that piece. Perfect. Okay, we're good to go there. And now we have to do some pieces down here. So again, this is where our incorrect cuts can come in handy. This has green on it, so I might as well use that. I know some of you are going to say, why don't you just cut it out of the same piece? But I don't have green in here, and I want to kind of keep that green on the left and pink on the purple on the right thing going. Okay, and then this is our little piece. Goes in the middle. And now we can trim this off. And I usually do trimming off the edge of a 12 by 12 piece with long scissors, because it's a long cut. Okay, we're going to keep these guys. All right, and now on this side, I need just over 4 inches. Which would have been these guys. Isn't that crazy? Should have measured that first. Oh well. Just over 4 inches for these guys. Actually, maybe I'll just do all the tops first and see how we end up. All right. I'll leave this bottom for another time. All right, so now I'm going to shift up a 1/2 inch. I'll use this as my marker. Or why don't I just cut my 1/2 inch piece and my 12 inch piece. So I need 2 1/2 inch and 1 12 inch. The only tricky part is getting it underneath and lining it up. Just give myself a little more than 12 inches there. There we go. There's our 12 inch piece. And 2 1/2 inch piece. Coming right up. 2 1/2 inch piece. And a 2 1/2 inch piece. Got some imperfections in it, but we can live with that since this is just a background anyway. Okay, there's our 2 little pieces. Alrighty. So this is going to go up a 1/2 inch from the last. And I just want to make sure I get it right. So this is 4 inches more or less. And this is going to be 4 inches more or less. Yep, that's nice and straight. Put this on at the bottom. And then we're going to mark our 2 1/2 inches at the top and at the bottom. 2 1/2 inches. 2 1/2 inches. There we go. And get our 12 inch piece. And lay that. Let's make sure we've left 2.5 inches. Yep. Yep. Okay, and now we're going to put another square in there, and we haven't cut our squares, so let's do 2 squares here, 2.5 inches. This is a little trickier because you're lining up a wider sticky spot. 2.5 inches. Make sure I've got that correct. Okay, 1. And 2.5 inches here. There we go. So we got 2.5 inch squares. Make sure I have this in the right direction. Pop that in. There we go. And now we can put our 2.5 inch over top of that. Oops. There we go. And now we're going to measure down 7.5 inches here. So that's 6. 7. Okay, you know what? We'll finish that one off. Switch everything around and finish that one off. Okay, so we can use our leftover pieces here. Green on the left and purple on the right. There we go. And this in the middle. There we go. And I can just trim those off with my super long scissors. There we go. Might as well trim this off as well. There we go. It's looking good. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Okay, you can go there and there. Now I need another 12 inch and 2, at least 2. Let's see. So we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 probably, but let's do our usual 2 to start. So 2.5 inches. And 2.5 inches. So there's our little pieces. We need our 12-inch piece. just a little bigger than 12 so that we there we go. And there's our 12-inch piece. Measuring 2.5 inches. I think this might just work out exactly right. 2.5 inches. Wouldn't that be nice? So, yeah, you know what? We're pretty close to dead on, so I think I'm just going to line that right up with the edge of the paper and make sure I haven't gone over. Oops. There we go. There's our last bar. And we have our 2.5 inches that is going to go across here. Make sure I get on the camera there. And make sure I have it the same distance. It's like 1/2 inch. And so this needs to be down a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to wait and see what I can do there. I don't like this one. It's not quite the right size. So I'm going to replace it with one that is. There we go. Okay, now I need to go down 7.5 inches here. This is 4 inches. This is 7.5 inches. So there's 6. And there's, you know what? That's a full strip. It's just a bit over 7.5. So we're just going to put our full strips in there. So we need 7.5 inches of these. 7.5 inches, just a little more. So I'm going to do 7 1/8 inches just to make sure I get the right amount. Oh. Okay. There's one. I have to take it off because I got to measure. go. And then my small one. Okay. There we go for these two guys. So, what do we got here? Purple is going to be on this side. Just going to line it up right in the corner there. Okay, and green is going to be on the other side. And then this guy is going to be in the middle. Actually, I'm just going to loosen this up a minute. There we go. This guy is going to be right down the middle. Loosen that up. There we go. There it is. And, all right, just trim off that. I won't worry about that for now. Now, that is a square, but we need to have a square 7.5 inches down. So this is 6, 7.5, 6, and 7.5. I just want to make sure I'm putting that in the right place. This is a bit short. Okay, I just need 2 more purple pieces at 2.5 inches. To do this standing up. 1. 2. Okay, there we go. Now this, I'll do it from this side because it's closer. 7.5 inches. And we'll put this in there. And this goes across the bottom. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to adjust this because it's slightly off. There we go. All right. So we just need to do our 7.5-inch stripes and our 4-inch stripes, and we can use these guys up here. So I'm going to do this a couple of times. 7.5 inches. There's one. And this, I think, was 4 inches down here. Bottom. I'm going to measure that. Yep, so I'm going to cut that just a little over 4. There we go. Got our 7 and our 4. We don't need any more of that. 7.5 inches for this guy. I need to do that twice. One. Okay, and I need a 4-inch one, so just a little over 4. One. And 2. Oops. And that should be it for cutting, but let's get these in. Now, these guys, we have the purple and the green. So the green. Put that right down. There we go. This isn't as much purple as the other side was, but okay. And this piece needs to go up the middle. You know what? I'm going to take this off. These are just a little longer than they need to be. There we go. And I'll lay that back down. Oops. Come on. There we go. All right. And now our 4-inch pieces. Again, doesn't have as much green. this a little farther up. There we go. Our last piece here. There we go. And then we'll just finish up here with the green side. There we go. And the purple side. All right. And then the words. And there we are. And let's just trim the back. So I have a couple of pieces I can use for maybe sticking on after the fact. Sorry, things are sticking to my fingers. There we go. And just a little bit here. There we go. And there is our finished page. Now, this wasn't a quick and easy project, but it was a use your scraps up project. And the idea, you know, if you're into quick and easy, this wouldn't be the thing you would choose. But I like experimenting with things, so I'm very happy to do something like this and see how I can use my materials in a different way. Now, I just have to figure out how I want to play this. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so I can play it this way. I can play it this way. I can play it the way it was created. I can play it this way. I think I want to play it the way it was created. Just like that. And so I can use my photo mats, whatever, to lay out on here where I'm going to put my pictures, what title I'm going to use, and I can create this with a multitude of different washi tapes, which I think I'm going to go and do now, and I will add those to the pictures at the beginning of the video. So I hope that you enjoyed at least watching this and that you take your inspiration from things that aren't necessarily paper crafting and develop your own take on things. So that's it for Crafty Chris, and I will see you next Thursday. Bye!